There's an urgent meeting that's been called this morning between universities and federal ministers on a proposal to cap overseas student numbers, curbing Australia's migration intake. Well, we're joined now by Phil Honeywood, the CEO of the International Education Association of Australia. Phil's in Brisbane. Good morning to you, Phil. Thanks for coming on the program.
Good morning, Lisa.
So talk us through what the federal government has said it wants to see as far as changes to the number of overseas students coming into Australia.
Well, Lisa, we're talking about a $48 billion a year industry for Australia. It's Victoria and South Australia's #1 industry at the moment. 200,000 Australians work in international education, and yet we've suddenly been told we have to prepare for caps on the number of students coming in here. Now, that's going to throw out the business plans of all universities, but also of long-established English language colleges and many other accommodation providers who've factored in a certain number of students to be here, when now that's all going to be taken apart.
So it was released on, or was suggested on the weekend, and then the draft has already sort of been put forward. This meeting today, what are you hoping you might achieve out of that?
Well, we're really asking for clarity from the four ministers, particularly Jason Clare and Claire O'Neill, around what planning levels they've got in mind. International students were responsible for half the GDP growth in Australia last year, and clearly many families overseas are already planning to come here. They need clarity, and we're worried that we're going to have policy overreach where too much too quick is going to really damage Australia's reputation as a welcoming, safe, world-class study destination.
On the other hand, the critics would say the numbers that we've seen, certainly post-COVID, there was a 15% increase. It's been a bit of a golden goose for the university sector in Australia, and you'd agree or accept that there's been community concern about housing and urban congestion.
Lisa, Australia has never funded our public universities at even anything like OECD average. Every government in Australia has turned a blind eye to really ensuring that public funding of our universities is adequate, and they've left it to universities to recruit international students, to make up the shortfall for research funding and for delivery, cross-subsidising our domestic students. So we just can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Many other countries, Canada, UK, USA, have hundreds of thousands of full fee pay international students. These young people pay 3 times more in tuition fees than what a domestic student pays, and it's incredibly important for our relationship with the Indo-Pacific, with our neighbours in Southeast Asia, that we're providing these young people with a world-class education. 80% of them go home anyway, they don't stay here, but we give them the chance to do really well in their own country.
Should universities be building and taking responsibility for housing the students?
That would be a long-term gain. Of course, we already have over 100,000 purpose-built student accommodation beds in our campuses anyway, but if you look at local government and state government planning mechanisms, to suddenly been told that we have to now dish up on-campus accommodation beds, it could be a 3 or 4 year shovel-ready situation to try and build these beds that we've now only just been told will be required. The federal government itself is finding it very hard to get even residential housing off the ground, let alone trying to get through all the planning labyrinth that Australia now has.
What do you think this is going to do to the sector if what the government wants to see, to actually be able to set overseas student number caps on individual universities? What's it going to do?
Well, it's not just universities. We've got hundreds of long-established English language private colleges. We've got government high schools, private high schools who recruit young people to do secondary school. So it's going to cause a massive problem with 200,000 jobs potentially at risk. And it's really a case of policy on the run. We need to get certainty, and we don't want to find that in a few months' time we're closing doors of both public university lecture theatres, but also we're closing doors of long-established quality private colleges.